In the heart of a burning desert world, before a crowd of thousands, a lone human envoy stood against a monstrous predator bred for war. The Draelith believed her weak, certain she would fall within moments. But when the beast charged, she did something no one expected. She smiled, raised her hand, and whistled. What followed would shake the galaxy and rewrite the meaning of power forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. On the edge of a distant star system, beneath two harsh suns, the desert world of Voronel stretched out in endless dunes and craggy cliffs. At the heart of this dry land stood the Grand Arena, a structure carved from dark stone and reinforced with alien metals. Its walls rose high, echoing the roars of thousands who gathered inside. For the Draelith, the reptilian rulers of this world, the arena was more than stone and sand. It was a temple of power, a place where strength alone wrote the law. Into this arena walked a single human. Her name was Lyra Callan. Slim and unassuming, with hair the color of burnished copper and eyes calm as still water, she looked almost fragile among the towering Draelith warriors who loomed over her. To the crowd, her presence seemed absurd, almost insulting. The Draelith believed humans were weak. Their first surveys of Earth had convinced them that humans were inferior, unprepared, underarmed, and easily conquered. Yet here she was, Earth's envoy, standing before the high dais where warlord Vorak Terran awaited. He was a massive figure, his black-green scales glinting beneath the twin suns, his golden eyes sharp with both mockery and suspicion. The arena fell silent as Vorak raised his clawed hand. His voice rumbled like stone grinding against stone. Human, you stand before us not as guest, but as challenger. The proving demands combat. Our strongest against yours. Show us if your kind has any worth at all, the crowd hissed with approval, scales rustling like dry leaves in the wind. They expected her to falter, to beg for diplomacy, to admit Earth had no champion worthy of such a trial. But Lyra did not bow her head. She did not tremble. Instead, she lifted her chin and answered in a steady voice. I accept. A murmur swept through the crowd, disbelief rippling like fire through dry grass. Some laughed openly, others jeered, calling her foolish, fragile, doomed. But Lyra's calm smile only deepened. She looked every bit the envoy they thought her to be, yet beneath her measured words lay a mind sharpened by years of strategy and training. She had not come to beg for mercy. She had come to test the Draelith on their own ground. Vorak leaned forward, studying her carefully. You misunderstand, he said, his words carrying across the arena. The proving is no exchange of words. It is combat to submission or death. You will need a champion. Choose one from your world, if you dare. Lyra did not break her gaze. I am the champion. For a long moment, silence pressed down on the crowd. Then laughter exploded from the Draelith guards, harsh and echoing through the stone hall. The idea that this slight human woman could represent an entire planet against their apex predator was absurd to them. Even Vorak's lipless mouth curled in cruel amusement. But Lyra did not flinch. She simply let the wave of laughter pass, her hand resting lightly on her utility belt. Her calm unnerved them more than any boast could have. The guards led her through a side passage beneath the arena. The air smelled of dust and iron. She was given armor, a thin set of plates used by Draelith youths in training. Clearly, They believed she would not live long enough to deserve anything stronger. Lyra fastened the armor without complaint, every movement measured and precise. In the quiet shadows of the chamber, she tapped the hidden communicator beneath her ear. "Command," she whispered, her voice steady. "This is Callan. Situation has escalated. Confirm clearance for Protocol Ember." The reply came swiftly, firm and unwavering. "Clearance granted. Support vessel is in low orbit. Extraction team stands ready. Are you certain of this course?" "Affirmative," Lyra replied. "The Draelith respect only strength. If Earth wants peace, we must speak their language." She ended the transmission just as a guard entered. His eyes glimmered with mocking pity. "It is time, human." The roar of the crowd grew louder as they guided her down a long tunnel. Ahead, a great gate of iron and stone loomed. Beyond it, the sound of claws scraping against the ground echoed, low and menacing. The Draelith guard chuckled. "You face the Razor Maul, bred for generations as our apex predator. Quick, merciless, unstoppable. At least your death will be honored." Lyra did not respond. She closed her eyes briefly, drawing a slow breath. The noise of the crowd became distant, replaced by the steady beat of her own heart. The gate began to rise with a grinding scream. Sunlight flooded the passage, blinding for a moment before the vast arena came into view. Tens of thousands of reptilian faces stared down from the tiered platforms, their anticipation thick in the air. The sand stretched wide, broken by jagged stones and dark stains from countless past battles. Lyra stepped forward into the light. Her armor gleamed weakly under the suns, fragile compared to the ceremonial plates worn by her alien hosts. The crowd erupted in a roar of expectation. They wanted blood. They wanted spectacle. They wanted to watch this human fall. From the opposite side of the pit, another gate creaked open. The sound that followed was not laughter nor jeering, but silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Out of the shadows came the first glimpse of the creature bred for death, and Lyra Call, envoy of Earth, did not run. She waited, calm, her hand brushing against the small whistle tucked at her side, a smile flickering across her lips as the proving began. The arena shook as the great gate opposite Lyra creaked open, its chains rattling like a warning bell. Dust rolled out from the dark chamber beyond, carrying the heavy scent of blood and stone. The crowd of Draelith warriors hushed in unison, every eye fixed on the shadow forming in the opening. They had seen this ritual countless times. They knew what was coming, but for the human standing alone in the pit, this was expected to be the end. Out of the blackness stepped the Razor Maul. It was not simply an animal. It was a nightmare crafted over generations of selective breeding and brutal training. The beast's body stretched nearly 6 meters, its armored hide black as volcanic rock, streaked with veins of crimson that pulsed with heat. 6 legs carried its bulk, each claw heavy enough to pierce stone. Its head was elongated, filled with jagged rows of teeth, and its amber eyes glowed with a hunger that pierced through the arena's silence. The Razor Maul did not walk. It prowled. Its whip-like tail swung in arcs, smashing against the ground, leaving cracks in the sand-covered floor. When it opened its jaws, the sound was a roar so deep that Lyra felt it in her chest, a vibration that rattled through her bones. The crowd erupted in cheers, the voices of thousands blending into one thunderous roar. They expected a short fight, a moment's entertainment, and the quick end of the fragile human. But Lyra did not move. She stood calmly in the center of the arena, her eyes never leaving the beast. The stillness of her body, her refusal to show fear, unsettled the Dralith more than if she had run. Vorak Terran, from his high seat above, leaned forward. His golden eyes narrowed as he studied the human. He wanted to see panic. Instead, he saw something else: preparation. The Razor Maul began its charge. Despite its massive size, it moved with frightening speed, its claws tearing through the sand, its roar echoing like a storm. The beast closed the distance in heartbeats. The Dralith shouted with joy, already savoring the inevitable. But then Lyra moved. She lifted her hand to her lips and let out a sharp whistle. The sound cut through the arena, piercing above the roar of the crowd and the pounding feet of the predator. It was a clear, commanding note, unnatural in the chaos of the fight. For 3 long breaths, nothing happened. The Razor Maul thundered closer, its eyes locked on Lyra, its teeth ready to tear through flesh and bone. The crowd laughed, thinking the whistle nothing more than a desperate gesture. Then the sky changed. A shadow swept across the arena floor, vast enough to cover the pit and silence the crowd. The suns dimmed as something massive passed overhead. All eyes turned upward. Descending from the sky came a creature unlike anything the Dralith had ever seen. Wings as wide as a warship stretched against the light, scales shimmering with hues of metallic silver and deep blue. The creature's body twisted with the grace of a serpent, every movement powerful and controlled. Its long neck carried a head crowned with horns, its eyes glowing with intelligence and fire. The dragon, Arion, had arrived. The arena, moments before filled with noise, fell into absolute silence. Even the Razor Maul stopped mid-charge, its predatory instinct screaming caution as it faced a predator greater than itself. Arion landed with a force that shook the ground, folding his massive wings as he lowered his head protectively beside Lyra. The sand around them swirled in the sudden gusts from his descent. Smoke curled from his nostrils, and a low growl vibrated the air. Deeper and more powerful than anything the Dralith had ever heard. The Razor Maul, then, so fierce only moments before, now backed away, its hiss filled with uncertainty. It had never known fear. Now it stood before a creature born to rule the skies. Lyra reached up and touched Arion's scales, her voice calm but carrying across the arena. "Good boy," she said softly, and the dragon's rumble deepened like a living storm. The crowd stared in disbelief. To them, humans had been weak, unworthy of respect, nothing but prey. But here stood a human, with a beast greater than anything the Dralith could imagine, a companion who answered not to force, but to trust. Vorak rose slowly from his throne. His expression was unreadable, torn between rage at being challenged and awe at what he had witnessed. "This cannot be," he muttered, though the sound reached every corner of the arena. "Your world showed no sign of such creatures." Lyra met his gaze, her voice steady and clear. "We do not show all that we are. Arion is not a weapon. He is my companion. He has been with me since he hatched 15 years ago. Where I go, he follows." The Razor Maul let out a furious roar, trying to reclaim its dominance, but Arion responded in kind. The dragon's roar was a wall of sound, a wave that rolled through the arena, shaking the very stone walls. The crowd staggered back, clutching their ears. The Razor Maul faltered, lowered itself to the ground, and hissed in submission. The silence that followed was heavier than any roar. For the first time in their long history, the Dralith saw a challenge to their supremacy, not through politics or weapons, but through sheer presence. Lyra placed her hand on Arion's neck and looked around at the thousands of watching faces. Her calm expression carried more weight than any weapon could. The proving had just shifted. She had not come to survive. She had come to show them that humanity was far more than they believed. And with the dragon by her side, the Drelith finally understood that their assumptions of weakness had been a grave mistake. In the center of the arena, between predator and dragon, Lyra Callan stood firm, and the shadow beast bowed before the fire of earth. The arena had fallen into silence. The Razor Maul, moments ago a terror that filled every corner of the pit, had backed away in caution. Arion, the dragon, stood tall and unshaken beside Lyra, his wings still partly spread, his chest glowing with the heat of his inner fire. Thousands of Drelith warriors stared down, their disbelief painted on every scale and every unblinking eye. They had expected slaughter, a swift end to the human envoy. Instead, they saw something they could not explain, a bond between human and beast that shifted the entire proving. Vorak Terran rose from his high throne, his voice carrying across the stone walls. The proving has rules. Your beast cannot fight for you. Our champion faces yours, alone. Prove yourself, human. The crowd hissed in agreement. Tradition was sacred to them. To allow the dragon to fight in Lyra's place would be seen as dishonor, an insult to their ancient test. Lyra placed her hand gently against Arion's warm scales. She looked up into his glowing eyes, eyes that understood more than simple commands. In a whisper meant only for him, she said, "They need to see me, not you. Stay above us, but let me stand alone." The dragon gave a low, rumbling sound, almost like disapproval, but he obeyed. With a thunderous beat of wings, Arion launched himself skyward, climbing into the twin suns until his shadow circled high above the arena. The sudden absence of his protective presence made the crowd lean forward. Now, they thought, the human would fall. The Razor Maul roared, emboldened by the dragon's departure. Its claws tore into the sand as it lowered itself to strike. Saliva dripped from its jagged teeth, sizzling where it touched the hot ground. This was the moment the Drelith had been waiting for. Their predator against an unarmed human. Lyra did not run. She did not raise her hands in fear. Instead, she crouched low, her eyes fixed on the beast's movements, every muscle in her body ready. She had studied predators all her life, both human and alien. She knew that arrogance made them predictable. The Razor Maul lunged forward, its jaws wide, its weight crashing down like a storm. The crowd roared in approval. Sure, the fight would end with this single charge, but Lyra moved. With a burst of speed, she slid beneath the massive creature, the sand scraping against her armor. As she passed under its belly, she drew a slim object from her belt, a small injector, designed not for death, but for precision. With steady aim, she jabbed it deep into the softer flesh beneath the armored plates. The beast let out a howl of pain and fury, twisting violently, trying to snap at the human who had dared touch it. But Lyra had already rolled clear, coming to her feet with calm precision. She watched as the Razor Maul staggered, its charge faltering, its eyes losing focus. The injector had done its work. A tranquilizer powerful enough to bring down creatures far larger than the Maul flowed through its veins. The predator stumbled once, twice, then collapsed heavily into the sand. Its chest still rose and fell. It lived, but the fight was over. The arena was stunned into silence. Never in the long history of the proving had anyone spared the beast. Every victor before had killed, bathing the sand in blood to prove their strength. Lyra stood tall and held the empty injector high for all to see. Her voice was clear, carrying across the silence. I could have killed it. But strength is not only measured in death. True power is knowing when not to destroy. This is how humans fight, not only with force, but with choice. The Dralith in the stands shifted uneasily. Respect in their culture had always been built on fear, but what Lyra offered was something unfamiliar. She had defeated their champion without bloodshed. She had shown intelligence, restraint, and control, qualities they had dismissed as weakness. Vorak descended from his throne, his massive form striding into the arena. He stood before Lyra, towering over her by more than half his height. His golden eyes burned with questions. "You had the chance to kill," he said slowly. "You could have ended the Razor Maul, and with it proven dominance. Why spare it? Why show mercy?" Lyra looked up at him without flinching. "Because we do not seek endless war. We respect life, even the life of those who stand against us. Earth does not want to be your conquest. Earth wants to be your ally. If you can see us as equals, you will find more strength in partnership than in submission." The crowd murmured. The Dralith were not accustomed to such words. Yet they could not ignore the evidence before their eyes. Their apex predator lay unconscious, bested by a human who had fought without brutality. Vorak's gaze lingered on her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he stepped closer, his clawed hand lowering as if in acknowledgement. "In 10,000 cycles, none have subdued the Razor Maul without killing it. None until now." The weight of his words rippled through the audience. Lyra remained steady, her hand brushing the whistle at her side, a reminder that her dragon still circled above. But she did not call Arian back. This was her moment to stand as human, not hidden behind wings of fire. The Dralith warlord's voice grew louder, his tone carrying to every ear in the arena. "Perhaps the human has shown us something new." And with that, the proving had twisted. What began as a trial meant to humiliate Earth had turned into a revelation that could change the course of two civilizations. Lyra Callan had not only survived, she had redefined victory itself. The grand arena of Voronel stood in complete silence. Tens of thousands of Dralith warriors, who once demanded blood and conquest, were now frozen in awe. At the center of the pit, the Razor Maul lay unconscious, defeated but alive. And standing above it was a single human envoy, Lyra Callan, calm and unshaken. The crowd that had laughed at her minutes before now stared with something unfamiliar in their reptilian eyes. Respect. Vorak Terran, the warlord of the Dralith, faced her across the arena floor. His towering frame, armored in dark scales, seemed smaller now, not from weakness, but from realization. For generations, his people had valued strength above all else. Yet this human had shown them another kind of strength, strength without slaughter. Slowly, Vorak raised his clawed hand. "In 10,000 cycles," he said, his voice echoing through the stone walls, "no outsider has ever stood where you stand now. No one has defeated the Razor Maul without killing it. Today, you have proven your people worthy of more than conquest." The crowd erupted, not in mockery, but in a roar of approval that shook the pillars of the arena. They had witnessed history. The proving, once designed to crush outsiders, had been rewritten by the courage and restraint of a single human. Above, Arion circled in the sky, his wings spread wide against the twin suns. His shadow rolled across the arena floor, a reminder of Earth's hidden strength. At Lyra's whistle, the dragon descended with a thunderous landing, folding his wings beside her. His massive head lowered, and she rested her hand against his warm scales. The crowd gasped again, seeing not just a beast, but a bond. Vorak stepped closer until he stood before Lyra. He studied her with golden eyes, searching for deception and finding none. With a nod, he motioned for one of his guards. The guard brought forth a heavy chain and a medallion, a symbol etched with the crest of the Drelith. It was a mark reserved for only the most honored warriors, those acknowledged as equals. Vorak placed the medallion around Lyra's neck. "From this day," he declared, "Earth is no longer seen as prey. You will stand as equals at our table. The invasion is ended. The path forward will be one of alliance." The arena shook again with the approving roar of thousands. For the first time, the Drelith celebrated not the crushing of an enemy, but the rise of a new partner. Lyra looked up at the warlord, her voice calm but firm. "This is the beginning, not the end. Earth does not seek to dominate. We seek to build, to share, and to defend what is worth protecting. Together, our worlds can shape a future stronger than any empire built on fear." Vorak studied her for a long moment, then extended his hand. Lyra took it without hesitation. His scaled claws wrapped around her smaller human fingers, sealing not just a gesture, but the beginning of a new era. Arion shifted, his wings unfurling slightly as if to mark the moment. The dragon's glowing eyes swept over the arena, silencing the last whispers of doubt. Even the razor maul, stirring weakly in the sand, seemed to acknowledge the new balance. As the crowd continued their thunderous approval, Lyra climbed onto Arion's back with practiced ease. She reached down once more, offering her hand to Vorak. For a moment, he hesitated, torn between tradition and the undeniable change he had just witnessed. Then, with a decision that would alter the fate of two civilizations, he took her hand and climbed onto the dragon's back beside her. Arion spread his wings and launched into the sky. The arena below erupted into a deafening roar that echoed across the desert plains of Voronel. Thousands of Dralith voices shouted not for conquest, but for unity. As they rose higher, the view of the endless dunes stretched out beneath. Lyra looked toward the horizon, her thoughts already beyond the proving. She knew this was only the first step. True diplomacy, true alliance would take time and trust. But the spark had been lit. Vorak turned to her as the wind whipped around them. "Your people are more dangerous than we believed," he said. Lyra met his gaze and answered softly, "We are not dangerous because we seek war. We are dangerous because we refuse to be broken. But we would rather be friends than enemies." Arion roared, his voice rolling like thunder across the desert, as if sealing her words into the very air of Voronel. When they landed at the outer gates of the city, the streets were already filled with Drelith citizens waiting to witness the outcome. News of the proving had spread faster than fire through dry grass. When they saw their warlord descend with the human at his side, carrying the mark of honor, the people bowed their heads in acceptance. From that day forward, the Drelith Empire no longer looked at Earth as prey. Instead, they saw a partner capable of surprising strength and wisdom. And for Lyra Callan, the envoy who had risked everything, this moment marked not just survival, but the birth of an alliance. Above the city, Arion circled once more before soaring toward the distant mountains. The dragon's shadow stretched across the land like a promise of what was to come. The proving had ended. But the true story, the story of alliance, trust, and the awakening of two civilizations, had only just begun.